All right, this is a private video for you, Lee. Again, I've been testing your instrument cluster for a few hours since, I have other things to do. I'm using the other simulator, but I don't find anything wrong with it. Let me just show you. I have the battery connected. I'm going to turn the ignition on. I have signals already applied to it, so you will see RPM, speed, and so on. But yeah, as you can see, everything is working good. I don't see anything wrong with nothing. I can change the speed, and one thing that I want to show you is all my signals. Just get rid of some in here. Yeah, perfect. So you can see right there the hertz that I give, that changes into mileage. So let's say right now I'm providing around 58 hertz, and that is around 40 miles an hour. So that is, calibration wise, is perfect. And I've been checking different speeds and it's good. Same things goes into hertz on the RPM. So 50 hertz is 1,000, 100 hertz is 2,000, and so on, right? So I'm right now in 2,000 RPMs. And if we see here, the other tool that I'm using, I'm in 100 hertz. So that is matching the specification. So if I go over to 50, which you have 1,000 RPMs, and we can see that that is indeed perfect. So again, no problem with the signals. I'm going to go down to idle. Idle, like lower RPMs and lower mileage per hour, which is in this case, the lowest I can go is 14 hertz, and that's 10 miles per hour. I can go down in RPMs, so probably around there. Kind of like mimicking an idle condition, right? I'm going to turn ignition off. All gauges are returning, as you can see, passive to the position. And when I turn ignition on, let's say if I turn this signal off and I turn this signal off as well, now we should have just, let me actually change all the signals off. You'll see that everything is resting in 0, which is exactly what it should do. I don't have that going or staying. I don't care how many times I turn the ignition on and off. If I turn ignition off and battery off, which it will not happen in the vehicle, but when I do that, every time I turn this on, you will hear a that's like all the stepper motors resetting. Do you hear that? So yeah, so it is doing it. Not sure if this is happening on the vehicle, because I saw your video and I've been playing it a couple of times, and I've noticed that when that happens, you turn the ignition on and the needles stay up, like it's missing a battery, it's missing a ground. So again, I will recommend to check the grounds. I have gathered, and you can see here, all the main grounds that you need. So this is pretty much the pinout that you need for your instrument cluster. Everything is on the connector facing the cluster this way. On the connector there is on this side. It's a 28 pin. And then yes, please check powers and grounds and everything as I have here. It has marked, with colors, so you can see a little bit. Hopefully you can zoom in there, but you can see the main grounds are in black, red are in for power. So we have terminal 30, which B plus, terminal 50B is for illumination, but it's always good to have that there because it's also a battery, it's a battery power feed for the cluster, and then terminal 15, which is ignition. And the rest are just signals, so they should not affect anything. But again, the instrument cluster is working perfectly every single time in here. Again, ignition back on. If I provide the signals, so let me go back to temperature. Let me provide the RPMs. I'm going to 50 hertz, so that's 1,000 RPMs. And let me put the speed. If I turn the battery off, and then I turn, like let's say if you lose the battery, and I turn the ignition off, that's where the gauge, the needles stay, but they're not losing none of the, like if I see your video, when happens in your case, you're not losing the clock or prindle or mileage, because if I turn the ignition back on in here, it resets it immediately. And then we have clock, mileage, and prindle. And everything is working in there, even though I don't have the battery. Remember, the battery feed is for the clock to don't lose that zero, because right now it's at 0 minutes. So it will be reset every single time, and you have to reset the clock. It's the only reason it's in there. But see, because if I turn just the ignition off, which is normally what it should happen, everything stays lit like this in this too. Looking at your video, which I have to swap a little bit because it was sideways for me, it was throwing my neck down. I cannot see the clock, so I'm not sure, because you know it's a little low quality video for me to see. But if you don't have the clock, that means you don't have the battery, or you're missing something else, because this has to come on all the time. See right there, if I turn it off, obviously it will be off. Even with just the ignition on, it has to be on. So if this is not the case, we're missing a power somewhere that is for illumination. So I will check that terminal 12 or ground, again, like I said before, because looking at your video, again, is a very small video. All I can see is your prindle, your mileage, but I cannot see that one, at least not in this section of the video. You focus onto that side, so I lost a little bit of, like, maybe it's just the glare. Not sure if we have anything or not in here. I can see the fuel tank level going up and down, but that's it. I can see that you lost that right there. I can see still RPM. It looks like you were with ignition off, which is okay, so that was normal. So ignition off. I would have liked to see if we have the clock working or not. Because again, if you're missing one of the powers or one of the grounds, it will start creating these issues, because these clusters are very picky in there. Since I am providing everything this cluster needs in here, as I mentioned every single time, this is resetting, and it should. If you are connected all properly, for any reason you disconnect the fuse or something, again, I'm going to reproduce that. If I lost the battery, this is my main battery power. When I turn this off, the needles will stay, right? Because it was not a backup power in there. But if I power up, they have to do that. They have to go down and reset. If they don't do that, the only situation that can happen is a loose ground, a bad power. You need to do voltage drop tests. All right, Lee, I'm going to keep this private because I already mentioned all this on the first video. I just wanted to reiterate, you can see the old gauges, RPMs and everything is working 100%. Because I didn't show the RPM on the first video, so I want to show you that indeed everything is working. And I have all the settings that I know that I can reproduce every single time. Like that, I know if the gauge stepper motor is off, because if I put 50 hertz and this goes to 30 miles, well, yeah, it's reading RPM, it's bad, right? Same thing with the speedometer. If I put this into 14 hertz and it goes to 60 miles an hour, well, then something is wrong. And I have the other settings for the same thing for coolant and for fuel, that I know where the gauges needs to be based on resistance. All right, I hope this is helpful in showing that your cluster is working perfectly 100%. I will contact you shortly. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.